Hello everyone, and welcome to Fandom Canon. This week, I've got a very important question for you. Who do you think explored more of Hogwarts than anyone else? Hogwarts is a massive castle with untold mysteries, but who, in the history of the wizarding world, do you think discovered more of these mysteries, explored more of the castle? Without further delay, let's dive right in and take a look at our contestants. Number 1. Fred and George Weasley. The Weasley twins are troublemakers first and loving brothers second. The two have such an affinity for causing mayhem that they found themselves sitting in Filch's office in their first year where they spotted something that would change their lives, the Marauders map, which plotted the location of everyone on Hogwarts grounds. They stole this and used it to enhance their troublemaking skills by avoiding Filch and the rest of the faculty. By their 5th year, they felt they knew the school's secret passageways so well that they gave the map to Harry Potter as a gift. Number 2. The Marauders. Fred and George Weasley may have made good use of the map, but these guys designed it. Consisting of James Potter, Remus Lupin, Sirius Black, and Peter Pettigrew, the Marauders were 3 animagi and a werewolf, who would go out once a month and explore the castle grounds in their animal forms. This lack of supervision and ability to hide in plain sight allowed them to explore so much of the school that they were able to create a working map of the place, charmed in such a way as to show any individual on its premises. Number 3. The Golden Trio. Harry Potter, Hermione Granger, and Ron Weasley are the central characters of the Harry Potter series. Known as the Golden Trio by fans, they serve as our window into the wizarding world. For 7 straight years, the majority of important events to occur at Hogwarts revolved around these 3, and as such, they ended up exploring much of the castle at this time, solving puzzles, fighting monsters, and sneaking into common rooms along the way. Number 4. Tom Riddle. Also known as Lord Voldemort, the series' antagonist, like our heroes, was once a student himself. Known in those days as Tom Riddle, the young prodigy soon discovered that he is the heir of Slytherin when he came across the fabled Chamber of Secrets. He also discovered the Room of Hidden Things, a form of the Room of Requirement, where he later hid one of his Horcruxes. It's interesting to note that none of the faculty made the list, considering that they spend much more of their lives at the castle than any student and thus have more time to explore. The reason for this is simple. There isn't really enough evidence in the books that any of them plumbed the depths of the castle as well as any group mentioned above. Yes, Severus Snape knew the passage to the Shrieking Shack, but only because he was shown it by one of the Marauders. McGonagall knew how to get into the Ravenclaw common room, but we can perhaps assume that staff are given a general list of all the academically important rooms in Hogwarts. Anything learned during orientation to the job wouldn't really count as exploration.
Surely Dumbledore told you that.
And in Book 4, Dumbledore hints at having found the Room of Requirement. According to his account, however, he doesn't seem to have explored as much of what the room can do as the Golden Trio did a year later. Now, yeah, it's possible that Dumbledore had some secret knowledge of the castle that is far more than what he lets on, but we have to go on what we see in the novels. Besides, he didn't even know how to get into the Chamber of Secrets. Which brings Fred and George into question as well. It's safe to assume that the Chamber of Secrets isn't on the Marauders map, as Harry can't find Ron and Hermione on the map in Book 7 when they visit the chamber to collect basilisk fangs. This most likely means the Marauders themselves never visit it, which also throws them into question. But of the two groups, if everything Fred and George knew about the castle they learned from the Marauders, it's a no-brainer who should be bumped off the list first. Yes, it's true that Fred and George did their legwork and actually went through and explored the secret passages laid out by their forerunners and discovered that some of them were now collapsed. But this isn't enough, so Fred and George are the first to be disqualified. So how about those Marauders? As we mentioned, they never made it to the Chamber of Secrets, which both our other contenders did at some point. Harry and Tom Riddle in Book 2 and Ron and Hermione in Book 7. However, some very strong support for the Marauders comes from Pottermore, where J.K. Rowling herself states, "Perhaps no students, even including Harry Potter, Ron Weasley, Hermione Granger, and Tom Riddle, have ever explored the castle and grounds of Hogwarts as thoroughly and illicitly as the 4 creators and contributors to the Marauders map." So, should the thoroughness of which they explored the grounds outweigh their oversight of the Chamber of Secrets? What of the Room of Requirement? Are we to assume they found that place too, and it's not on the map simply because, as Hermione surmises, it is unplottable? More on this later. Since it's difficult to determine which is more important, who visited more locations or who more thoroughly explored the locations they did visit, let's move on to our remaining two contestants, Tom Riddle and the Golden Trio. Lord Voldemort says in a moment of denial that there is no way Harry could locate his Horcrux hidden at Hogwarts in the Room of Hidden Things, since he was the only one who knew about that room. Ron makes fun of him for this in Book 7 upon entering the Room of Hidden Things for the first time and seeing it filled with an uncountable number of things Hogwarts students have wanted to hide over the years. How could Voldemort think he was the only one who knew about this place? Clearly, his arrogance was clouding his judgment, and this throws into question his possibility of exploring more of the school than anyone else. True, he knew of the Chamber of Secrets and the Room of Requirement, two places we are uncertain of whether the Marauders knew of, but the Golden Trio definitely went to those rooms as well. Plus, Tom Riddle was a model student and not an animagus. It's unlikely he had much time to explore secret passageways and tunnels while he was studying in the library. Yes, he is seen using a disillusionment charm in Book 7 that renders him practically invisible, but we don't know if he could do that 50 years prior when he was a student. Given the fact that we know the trio visited the most secret of rooms along with him, and the ambiguity of whether he explored as much of the rest of the castle as the Marauders, Lord Voldemort is the next to be knocked off the list. Now, what about the Golden Trio? Can they stand up to the Marauders when they, like Fred and George before them, relied so heavily on the Marauders' teachings to explore the school? Let's see where both groups stand before making our final decision. Both groups explored the school's secret passageways, but this was only possible for the trio because of the Marauders' map. One might make the argument that they entered the passage to the Shrieking Shack with the help of Crookshanks the cat, but only because they were following a Marauder, Sirius Black, in dog form. They both explored Hogsmeade and the Dark Forest extensively, but it was the Marauders' map that allowed Harry, Ron, and Hermione to visit these places so frequently and without getting caught, so another victory for the forerunning Marauders. However, Harry, Ron, and Hermione all visited the Chamber of Secrets and made extensive use of the Room of Requirement in ways we have no indication the Marauders did. Also, Harry at least visited two House Common rooms other than his own, Slytherin and Ravenclaw. Once again, we have no indication that Sirius, James, Lupin, and Peter accomplished this. So it seems like we have a tie. The number of places the trio visited is offset still by the thoroughness of the Marauders in their explorations of the castle. And though the trio were pretty thorough themselves, many of their nightly wanderings were aided by their mischievous precursors. If only there was one more piece, one secret location that could tip the scales one way or the other. But wait, there is. The lake. Specifically, the Merpeople village at the bottom of the lake. While Remus, James, Sirius, and Peter may have enjoyed swimming in the lake in their youth and playing with the giant squid, only a handful of people have been down to the Merpeople village in its depths, and Harry, Ron, and Hermione are three of them. Given that none of their animagus forms were water-dwelling creatures, it's unlikely the Marauders ever made it to this place. So the Golden Trio wins, much like they did in the books, to certain people's chagrin. But when you weigh the facts, it makes sense. They explored places the Marauders had been, but which housed entirely new dangers, such as the 7 enchantments guarding the way to the Philosopher's Stone, and though they later received help from the Marauders and their miscreant map, the trio discovered the Chamber of Secrets before coming into the map's possession. That has to count for something. The visit of the trio to the bottom of the lake just cinches it. Trio wins, end of story, now let's enjoy the feast. Well, what did you think? Do you agree with my conclusion, or do you think that one of the other contestants should have won? Or do you think that there's someone who wasn't even mentioned in the video who maybe explored more of Hogwarts grounds than any other wizard in history? Leave me a comment below to let me know. Like and subscribe to hear more from Fandom Canon, or just watch one of my videos right now. But whatever you choose to do, thanks for watching.